All right, let's dive into something that's quietly been changing the game for how AI interacts with, well, everything. It's called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. And it's basically an attempt to teach AI a universal language, which might just be the thing that unlocks what they can really do.
So think about it. Even the most powerful AI models we have today are kind of trapped. They're like these brilliant minds stuck on their own little digital islands, completely cut off from the huge world of data and tools and systems that we use every single day. You know, every time you want to connect one to a new database or an app, it's this whole custom-built bridge you have to make. It's slow, it's brittle, and it just doesn't scale.
I think the best way to picture this is that junk drawer we all have. You know, the one overflowing with a tangled mess of old proprietary charging cables. That's what AI integration has been like. Every tool needs its own unique, one-off connector. But with MCP, the whole idea is to create a single, universal standard. Think USB-C. Just one port to connect any AI to any tool. It takes that fragmented mess and turns it into something simple, reliable, and scalable.
And this really puts the whole problem into perspective, right? APIs were what let different pieces of software start talking to each other. They basically created the modern internet as we know it. But AI agents, they've been missing that same kind of unifying layer. There just hasn't been a shared language. And that's exactly the gap that MCP is trying to fill for this new AI era.
So that brings us right to the solution, the Model Context Protocol. MCP isn't just another API. You got to think bigger. It's an open protocol designed from the ground up to be the universal translator between AI models and the entire outside world. And yeah, we're going to stick with that USB-C analogy because it just nails the goal here. Pure, plug-and-play simplicity for AI tools. So what is MCP exactly? Well, at its core, it's an open-source standard. And that's super important. It's not some company's proprietary product. It's a set of rules for how an AI can connect to external systems. That means any developer can build on it, and any AI app can use it, creating a truly open ecosystem instead of just another walled garden.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work under the hood? The best way to understand MCP is to think of it like a really structured conversation. It has very clear rules, a set list of participants, and a specific vocabulary they all have to use.
So in every one of these conversations, you've got three key players. First, there's the host. That's the AI app you're actually using, like your code editor or Claude desktop. Now, inside that host, for every tool you connect, it spins up a client. You can think of the client as a dedicated messenger, and that client talks directly to an MCP server, which is the program that's actually providing the tools and data, like, say, a server for Slack or your local file system.
Now, for the words they use, their shared vocabulary, a server can offer up three basic things, or primitives. First are tools. These are actual actions the AI model itself can decide to call, like a search flights function. Then you have resources, which are just read-only data sources, like the contents of a file, that the application can feed to the model for context. And finally, there are prompts, which are reusable templates that you, the user, can trigger to kick off a specific task. The really key thing here is who's in control. The model, the application, and the user each get their own lane.
And this all comes together in a pretty straightforward four-step conversation. It all starts with a handshake, where the client and server figure out what they can each do. Then there's discovery, where the client asks, okay, what tools do you have for me? Once it knows what's possible, it can issue a command to actually do something. And what's really cool is the last step. The server can proactively send updates if its tools change, keeping the AI in the loop in real time.
All right, so we've seen the mechanics, but what does this actually let us do? Well, this whole standardized way of communicating unlocks something people are calling composable AI. It's like having a giant box of AI-powered Legos. Each tool is a different block, and you can snap them together in any combination you can think of.
You know, the ultimate vision here is basically an app store for tools. Because there's a common standard. Developers can build and share MCP servers for literally anything. Jira, Slack, Spotify, you name it. An agent developer doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. They can just find a high-quality server that already exists, plug it in, and bam, their AI instantly has new superpowers.
And hey, this isn't just some theory. People are already building some amazing things with this. With the right MCP servers, a code editor like Cursor can suddenly send Slack messages or generate images right inside the editor. Someone even hooked up Claude Desktop to a Blender server to create 3D models just by describing them in plain English. The lines between what one application can do are getting really, really blurry.
And this is where it gets truly powerful. Imagine you just tell an AI,
Plan my vacation to Barcelona. A single AI host can connect to a bunch of specialized servers all at once. It can pull your availability from a calendar server, grab your preferences from a travel server, and check the forecast from a weather server. Then it can use tools from all of them to combine all that context and actually execute a pretty complex plan. That's composability in action.
So what's next? The potential here is obviously huge, but let's be real, there are still some pretty big challenges to solve before this becomes universal.
Yeah, the community is working on some really key questions, like how do you handle authentication securely? How can an AI just dynamically discover new tools it might need for a task? And how do you build the infrastructure for hosting and debugging all these servers at scale? These are the foundational things that need to get figured out to really take MCP mainstream.
I think this is a perfect way to think about where we are right now. The developer experience for MCP feels a lot like building with APIs back in the early 2010s. It's a powerful new paradigm, for sure, and you can totally see the potential. But the tool chains for building and testing and deploying everything, they're still maturing. It's a super exciting time, but there's a lot of work to be done.
Now this brings up a really important distinction. You've probably heard of function calling, right? That's the model's ability to figure out what tool to use and when to use it. MCP is the layer underneath all that. It's the standard for how those tools are packaged and served up in the first place. It makes that scalable function calling even possible.
And it's important to remember, this isn't some static thing set in stone. MCP is a living standard. It's actively evolving as the community figures out how to solve all these new challenges, which is exactly what you want to see.
So, at the end of the day, MCP is really about laying the groundwork for a future where AI is no longer stuck on those digital islands. It's creating a common language that lets agents and tools just talk. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. If any AI can finally talk to any tool, what kind of new conversations are we all going to start?